Hello there, we're back, and today looking at pretty much a complex severe weather scenario across portions stretching from the Midwest into the Ozarks and Central Plains. Quite an uncertain forecast releases. Really, you have quite a potent trough moving in, and then you have pretty much some mesoscale details as well. Definitely have to be ironed out. It's definitely going to be something you're not going to, won't really know what's going to actually happen until it's going to be ongoing. But there's pretty much some areas where I'm the most concerned with. You could probably already see portions of northern Illinois, especially, and also Missouri. I think the best chances for storms, though, will be up into Minnesota, Wisconsin. That further south, it is. I lost it. Okay. I do think further south is a lot more conditional, but there's a higher ceiling really in place compared to portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So, we're just going to get into the background information. This trough, pretty much up north into southern Canada, checking into the northern plains. We have an MCS ongoing. That's going to dive into the Midwest overnight. It's going to be pretty much over portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, coming by 12Z. And and eventually, this activity should just entirely fade and leave pretty much an outflow boundary that's going to be draped over eastern Iowa into northern Illinois, and that's going to be pretty much important. Really, that's going to be our main forcing mechanism, as there isn't any really boundary pretty much close by. The cold front's hanging back, so pretty much so we're gonna have to see really what happens. You can see the trough right here. Eventually, we should see pretty moist air mass over portions. Probably saw from that sound. We saw dew points in the mid to upper 70s. Moist layer doesn't really extend up too high though. That's kind of a ton of dry air in the mid levels. Probably why storms are kind of limited down there. But that air mass, very moist low level air mass, it's gonna pretty much should lift northward. Pretty much right behind the lead wave, and you can probably see it on the HER pretty easily. Yeah, we're seeing some 70s dew points actually, even in eastern Iowa. And then you can see pretty much that lead wave coming in early in the morning. And then behind this wave, you can see pretty much strong surface heating mixing, warmer direction. You can see some 70s dew points that are going to be in place. You can see pretty much a boundary that's going to be draped. Cold front's way hanging back. So that's not going to be too much there won't be too much really forcing associated. And you can see very veered surface winds at the surface. We'll see if it's going to be really that veered. I don't know. But if it's going to be that veered, I have a tiny bit of a hard time believing, really, that Illinois is going to really initiate efficiently. Although effective inhibition is pretty much nil. Portions of Missouri. Well, it's something to really iron out. We'll take a look at 18Z now. I don't really want to wait for it. But 18Z. Taking a look at 18Z NAM. It does attempt to initiate some supercells, which is something. Winds aren't as veered, so you can pretty much see that a little bit of that outflow boundary, westerlies, and the southwesterlies. It's going to provide for some modest early convergence. Could initiate a supercell or two. I think probably see what's going on in Missouri. And that's where we're going to get into next section. And then we'll cover into we'll take a look at some soundings. I think the name 3 kilometer. I don't know if we're going to see moisture like this. I don't know if we're going to see something like this. But we'll take a sounding. northern Illinois. So we're right in that moisture pool. We'll go into northern, well, central Illinois too. Otherwise, let's see. So while we wait, here we go. Okay, so the first sounding, pretty much right in that moisture pool. Again, that moist layer is not looking too great. That's gonna be a big concern, really. I think updraft's gonna be rather skinny too. Moist layer is not gonna be looking too good. I think dry air entrainment is gonna be it's going to be definitely an issue, and I don't know if updrafts are going to be able to really sustain. Same issue. This is in northern Illinois. Moisture is looking a little bit better. I think updraft width is going to be a little bit. I just don't like the mid-level dry air. There's a ton of dry air in these profiles, and I'm thinking there's going to be a little. It's going to pretty much require some. It's going to pretty much require some more wide updrafts really to overcome this. Which is why you could probably see NAM try to fire some supercells, but they just fall apart. But that's sort of how it is. We're gonna move on to Missouri now. Missouri, probably right now. I'm kind of looking to her right now. Don't know if it's gonna be really that perfect though. If we should see some storms fire over in, take a look at 500 millibars even. Pretty much see synoptically really what's happening. Shortwave actually a little bit weak speed max, steering up into injected into Missouri, and pretty very moist air mass actually downstream from it. You could probably see mid upper 70s. All really good in that department, and that should pretty much aid to really initiate some storms, like the HER does. Pretty much moderate cheer. We'll take a. I'm gonna have to take a sounding. I'm gonna take some soundings from the HER. This is pretty much gonna be mainly after 0Z. I think is the main threat's gonna take place for the south, and that's sort of how it is. I think really concerns really. We'll get to why I think a significant MCS is possible over the area. We'll take there's some ridiculous moisture over central Missouri, and you can see. Okay then. Take a look at Mixler Cape. Yeah, pretty moderate really. Take a look at into central Missouri. Kind of dry, but it's definitely sufficient with the amount of I think it's gonna take some time really to moisten really those levels, which is sort of why it might take a little bit of a minute for something to really evolve. It's gonna take closer to 6C before we see something robust, which I think is gonna be a limiting factor. Is gonna be timing. But you could probably see downstream this MCS we finally see some MCS begin to evolve coming after 3Z. That comes right into St. Louis. This is not the first one I did this to, which I think is a little bit interesting. Take a look at most of the thing. I use mixed layer, but still dealing with elevated instability. See a little bit of that plume of elevated instability. You can see where that originates from southern Missouri, where you can see some deep moisture originates. Mid to upper 70s, that vex northward. Pretty much thanks to those, I think those southwesterly trajectories, southwesterly winds, and that's gonna be really good. and pretty much right out ahead of this MCS, you see a corridor pretty much most of stable okay, well over 4,000 joules per kilogram. You can probably pick up a sounding right now. It's gonna be pretty good. It's definitely gonna be sufficient, really, for 5Z. Pretty much downstream, we'll get there, and this is pretty much what the environment's gonna look like. It's that deep moisture, really. Not gonna be dealing with much, and you have that robust instability aloft, thanks to those deep lapse rates, and with the sufficient low level moisture, I think really this appear pretty much plausible that we see some significant wind gusts if we see something evolve. But it's gonna be thunder lightning. I think associated really some heavy rainfall too. I think also because of timing, we see timing inversion could limit some downdraft potential, but I'm overall not extremely concerned. I think cold pools should be cold enough. So that's sort of how it is right now. I think really Missouri is probably the best chance. So we'll move up to Wisconsin. We're gonna probably close it out now. Oh, okay, okay. Take a look at the wrap. The wrap pretty much right where that Wisconsin and Minnesota is pretty much where that jet max is gonna be sitting. That's sort of how it is. And I think we're looking pretty much good on that front. Take a look at moisture. Dew point's well in the 60s. I think it's a little bit over mixing. I think we'll see definitely some mid 60s. I don't know, upper 60s or low 70s. Not too bought in on that right now. But take a look at this now. Yeah, you see some mid 60s, maybe some low 70s in locally, but like mid upper 60s is definitely the biggest, most likely, I think. So that's sort of how it is. Instability gonna be quite decent. I think the herd does evolve some MCS. I think it's gonna be dominantly supercellular though. I think at least right now, just because of really the strong shear, I think skill growth is definitely gonna be so we'll get the environment. We'll see how it is if an MCS does evolve. That's what was the tendency before. This is pretty much downstream from this. Well mixed. That's sort of an issue, but outside being well mixed, it's pretty decent. We're probably gonna see some severe winds out of it, but take a look into central Wisconsin. Yeah, that's very true. I think mainly dominantly supercellular. Don't know if I'm buying the herd really with the complex coming out of the Dakotas late overnight. So I don't know. This is sort of how I am right now. It's there's a lot that can really go on, and I don't know. That is how it is, but outside of that, it's sort of how it is, and I don't know.